200 years ago, 2,000 years ago. This isn't going to work.
She's picking up a massive object in this video.
Ships that might be cloaked, I can sense them in my vicinity. So I guess I'm just very tuned in.
Vulcan head honcho walks out, ear reveal.
Yeah.
The crowd goes, oh my God. Was to protect the secrets from the Air Force that were not out there in the public. So
you're listening to KGRA Radio. This is Darcy Weir, and I'm coming to you live from a basement room at my parents' place. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I'm going to pipe in the audio from Twitter, and we will hear from our man Dale, Pastor Dale. Where's Dale? We got Dale somewhere here. There we go. And tonight, we're also going to be hearing from Missileman. I'm just going to pop up. Missileman, Dale, can you hear me? Can we hear you? Dale? Hello? Everybody good?
I'm good.
All right, so I can hear one person there. Dale, I think we need to pop you up, brother. Dale, you got no mic. Your mic's not working. Why don't we... Missileman, how you feeling? Do you want to start off the show? I wanted to... let me just sort of introduce you. If you give me a sec here. So...
Checking my audio. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? We can hear you, Missileman. All right. So this week, I wanted to introduce Missileman. First of all, he's a pretty interesting guy. I've listened to him in a bunch of spaces already. The fascinating thing about him is that he's, obviously a scientist in the field of material science. So his bio here is he has a BS, Bachelor of Science in Mathematics, a MS, a Master's in Aerospace Engineering, and he's working on his PhD in Material Science focused on topological materials and metamaterials. He's been an engineer in defense and space for about 16 years. Since 2022, he's been active on UFO Twitter, and he attends the SOL and SCU events. He's primarily interested in interrogating the theory and operation of the UFO physics from a nuts and bolts perspective, which I like. And he's also the co-host of Catastrophic Disclosure Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. So, Missileman, if that was a good intro, why don't you pop up and just tell us a bit more about what's been interesting you on UFO Twitter this week? Gonna have to unmute, man. Oh, I am 1 sec. My bad. I've got to give me 2 secs. There we go. I got him. I got Dale.
All right. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
All right. Thanks a lot for the bio. Yeah, I heard all that. That was great.
Perfect.
Glad to be here. Audio is okay?
Yeah, audio is perfect, man. You're coming through on KGRA as well. Dale, can you try out your mic? I just want to check you.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Other
Ye-
people were able to hear me. I'm not sure what the problem is.
It's all good. Sometimes Twitter's buggy, but we got you. We got you both. So why don't we go with Missileman for a moment, and then we're gonna hear some like to hear something enlightening from you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting week with Schellenberger's article and the reveal of what appears to be a codenamed classified program that is sort of the parent program for capturing all credible UFO media. I've heard a couple of different descriptions of what this program is purported to be. My understanding is it's not purported to be like the parent UFO program for everything, but rather the control program that, goes out and tries to interdict anytime there's like good quality media out there of like a sighting, particularly if it's collected by like a government agency like Border Patrol or NOAA or Coast Guard. That's the kind of thing they would have particularly good access to. But, is that your understanding that that's what this program is reported to be?
Well, I have a bit of a different understanding of it. I figured that it was something to do with actually satellite systems that are actually Andy's going to pop up. My man, he's coming back up. He just has to request, but he's got a really good explanation. He's gotten a bit of an inside scoop from, let's call it an insider. But essentially, the Immaculate constellation is supposed to be a satellite system and ground-based targeting, or let's say dish system, that is a united intelligence and defense front from the UK, Australia, the United States. Apparently, Canada is not involved. And
So it's a collection infrastructure for good data.
Yeah, and I think it's supposed to be defense based. First of all, agencies like the NRO and the NSA are supposedly taking advantage of it, which makes sense.
Sure.
But
like early warning satellites or early warning launch detection satellites, ballistic missile defense radars, like Clear in Alaska, and X-band radars and things like that, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think exactly. But I think these are perfect listening systems for tracking UAP. And whoever has been talking
what's really interesting is there were probably some lessons learned on this from the spate of Chinese Chinese spy balloon / exotic objects over Dead Horse, over Yukon, because the NORAD commander kind of publicly talked about, we had velocity filters on the radar algorithms, which tracks. That is something they would have to do, otherwise there'd be like a lot of clutter from. The more sensitive these systems have gotten, they pick up birds, they pick up all kinds of things, and student projects and what have you. So there would be these filters. So it seems as though they kind of were like, oh, hey, let's lower the filters and pick up more slow-moving objects or smaller objects or less reflective objects. And maybe now I don't know, maybe this is a somewhat realization from that their systems are actually quite good at picking these up. Perhaps they didn't fully realize that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And actually, not long ago, I was speaking with Bob McGuire, who's quite active these days on like Twitter and stuff. A lot of people call him Science Bob. He had contracts with the NSA back in the day because he was like launching microsatellites and stuff. And he essentially told me that the intelligence agencies had a filter in place. They had that implemented for like a long time to basically block out the UAP activity, because all they were interested in was listening and watching Russia, China, any foreign adversaries. And you're probably right. I think Schellenberger's spoken to somebody that's gotten the inside scoop on how the intelligence and defense agencies have been possibly starting to listen to that data. And, Tim McMillan's posting today that, of course, the moment that you announce to the public that a TS or TSI program like that, the name of it, it's going to be scrubbed from the internet, and the Pentagon's going to completely deny it exists. That's part of the intelligence and defense game, right?
Right. And I saw others also suggest that, of course, there was the Google search history indicating that back in 23, the name popped, some people Googled it. I'd imagine these are like staffers or people who were, told this name. It could be a couple of things. It could have been some kind of classified briefing revealed that program name to a handful of like civilians or people being read on for the first time. And some of them, undisciplined, went to the internet to see if there was anything out there about it. It could also have been, this is a little more shaky and just speculative, when they were choosing the name of the program, they may have wanted to know if there was already something out there that like some famous sci-fi novel, something that would have that would have the exact same name. And they would want to be aware of that. Like, hey, does something already use this phrase? That might have also been what it was. But in any case, I've heard people suggest that when that happened, that would have triggered an awareness in our cybersecurity intelligence infrastructure, and they would have scrubbed this program back then. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that was a big enough blip, to cause that level of concern, but perhaps.
Yeah.
Darcy,
Go for it.
If I interject?
Yeah, of course. Speak up, brother.
So what I was told is that Immaculate Constellation is not a program. It's just a name that was given to a group of assets. So the explanation that I got was in 8 parts. They're not long, so I'll read them to you quickly. First part was in regards to the intelligence community. So the IC has had integrated approach to intelligence gathering using space-based systems and ground-based systems. This has been in place since the 70s. TDRS program's role, NASA's TDRS program initiated in 1970 had a dual purpose, supporting both NASA's space communications needs and the IC's covert activities. While TDRS is known publicly as communication relay for NASA, it also secretly supported intelligence gathering. The third is NRO's covert role in it. The National Reconnaissance Office, which designs and operates reconnaissance satellites, worked covertly with NASA to use TDRS for intelligence purposes. NRO used TDRS to relay imagery and signals intelligence gathered by its satellites to designated ground stations. These ground stations located in Denver, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Fort Belvoir, Virginia, Pine Gap, Australia, RAF Menwith Hill, the UK, process data from NRO satellites. These facilities received and analyzed the satellite intelligence gathered in orbit. Mission numbers and satellites. NRO satellites are assigned unique 4-digit mission numbers that correspond to specific satellite constellations. For example, mission 7100 and mission 7300 series are examples of these constellations. Mission 7300 included satellites that were jointly controlled by the UK's GCHQ, Government Communications Headquarters, and the NSA, National Security Agency. 6, dynamic missions. Specific missions were created as needed to target particular objectives. This means that these satellites could adapt to changing intelligence needs with different satellites or systems focused on different targets at different times. Immaculate Constellation doesn't exist. The term Immaculate Constellation is not an actual system, but rather a metaphor for the complex integrated system of satellite constellations working together across different disciplines. These systems can bulk collect data through electromagnetic, electro-optical, and hyperspectral technologies, meaning they gather information across a wide spectrum of signals and imagery. And last is coordination for analysis. Once the data is collected from the satellites, targets of interest can be selected for in-depth analysis by the ground element. This process allows the IC to focus on specific targets that are of immediate intelligence interest. In summary, this description highlights the covert and complex collaboration between NASA and intelligence agencies like NRO, NSA, and GCHQ to collect, relay, analyze intelligence data from space-based assets. The system of systems refers to the combination of multiple satellite constellations, ground stations, and intelligence disciplines all working together. So basically, that's some of the quote-unquote program they're talking about, which is technically not a program. It's just the terminology used for the systems set in place that has been used to apparently get some pretty amazing UFO or UAP footage and data.
Pretty wild. I like that very detailed explanation. I was kind of hitting on some of those points, but what people may not even know is that the DoD has had satellite systems called the DSP since the 70s. I think they started launching them actually late 60s, and they decommissioned that in the 90s. And that was basically satellites that were aimed at Earth in orbit, and they were just constantly recording with, radar and infrared and optical like cameras, all kinds of stuff entering and exiting the planet's atmosphere. And I kind of covered some UFO events the DSP picked up in my doc, Secret Space UFOs Fast Walkers. But yeah, it would make sense that they've been upgrading that type of infrastructure, replacing it, and just improving that listening and observation data every decade that went by.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, DSP was replaced by a constellation called Sivers, and Sivers is in the process of being replaced by a handful of additional capabilities. There's a public program called HBTSS that's intended to be a supplemental ballistic missile defense constellation intended to help missile defenses target hypersonic threats. And there's an overall constellation or a very high-level effort called JADC2, Joint All-Domain Command and Control Constellation, something or other, that will have multiple tranches, like multiple shells of satellites that is meant to be multi-branch accessible, like the Army and the Air Force and the Navy and Space Force. And analogous to that description of this named system of systems is meant to in fact encapsulate sort of multiple different constellations for similar sorts of multitasking purposes.
Very interesting. So I'm going to have Dale pop up just before he does. Pastor Dale is a good friend of mine, growing quickly on my friends list here. But I just want to say that as announcements like this happen today, it seems as though, this disclosure movement is kind of growing. It's becoming stronger as every month goes by, and people are getting more interested in this, is getting more public mainstream media coverage. And the idea that we're not alone, and then that's being covered up by defense and intelligence agencies around the world, is becoming more of a mainstream thought. And, I guess, look, I try to stay positive because, there's all kinds of things that can bring you down. And I've been through depression. I've been through all kinds of bouts in my life. And I'm trying to bring a bit more positivity to this community. Don't get it twisted. This is not love and light. So, there's the doomer end of the spectrum, and then there's the love and light end of the spectrum. We're not trying to sell you cult shit here. We're trying to just speak to you plainly and make sure that people feel positive, about certain things in life. So I'll turn it over to you, Dale.
Okay, thank you, Darcy. I want to start by thanking you for allowing me to try and be light in this space. Now, the reason Darcy asked me to start this space off with words of hope, wisdom, and inspiration is because he knows that's what I try to be wherever I go. I want to be light, and I encourage everyone to be light wherever you go. I don't think most people understand how unique this community is. Let's start with Darcy and me. Darcy and I are good friends, and I consider Darcy to be one of the most generous people I know. But people like Darcy and me are not usually friends, let alone good friends. Why? Because Darcy is an atheist and I'm a pastor. Unlike many pastors, I get where Darcy is coming from. He has questions, and so do I. He has a right to his opinions just as I do to mine. You might be wondering, how do an atheist and a pastor become friends? It's the same way Republicans and Democrats become friends. It's by having a common interest. Darcy and I are sold out on trying to help make disclosure a reality. At the end of the day, at least for this topic, it doesn't matter if you're a person of faith or an atheist. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter if you are an African American, Native American, Latin American, Asian American, or even white American. What matters is that we are united in our effort to bring about disclosure. Here's something that does matter. What matters is that we are united. Now, I like to give a catchphrase for each of the messages I give. The first week it was, be careful who you listen to. Last week it was, words matter because people matter. This week it is stronger together. You see, we are stronger together. And the beautiful thing is we can be diverse and united at the same time. Darcy and I are perfect examples of this. I want to talk about what causes division in this community. First, it's because of trolls, and second, it is because of pride. Trolls are here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to create conflict. I talked about them last week, so I will leave them alone and just say this. Hurt people hurt people. Let me say it again. Hurt people hurt people. The second way people cause division in this community is because of pride. It usually happens when someone thinks they have all the answers. They say something like, aliens are all good or they're all bad. If people aren't arguing over that, then they're arguing over whether it's aliens or interdimensional beings, or it is people arguing whether they are physical or spiritual beings. Some people say it's anti-gravity, while others say it's wormholes, and so propulsion systems don't really matter. Here's how I look at it. If someone tells me it's this or it's that, that's usually the last person I listen to. Why? Because no one knows. You see, these are all theories, not facts. Let me say it again. These are all theories, not facts. Just as this community is diverse, the phenomenon is also diverse. But it is more than diverse. It is unknown. Now, I didn't say unknowable. I said unknown. And that's why we're working so hard on getting to disclosure, so that some of this can be known. And let me just remind you that the phenomenon is not one thing, it is many things. And so tonight, as we all get together, with all of our diversity, let us do so with humility and with unity. Stronger together. That's what we are. Stronger together, not just in this space, but in this movement. We are stronger together.
Thank you, Pastor Dale. That is really cool. I love those words that you just shared with the group. I'll share one other thing too. Look, this community, hurt people hurt people. I agree with that. That's just everywhere in the world. But, in terms of conspiracy, there's always people that are very paranoid. And I think unhinged, unchecked paranoia causes others to be unhinged, unchecked, and paranoid. So there's a lot of riffraff in Twitter or on Twitter, and some people are just pumping really dark paranoia, and it's winding other people up. It's kind of programming other people to be extremely paranoid and unhinged. So I don't like that, and I hope that people come to spaces they feel welcome here, and they can speak their mind and feel safe and not super paranoid or I guess unwelcome. But with that, why don't we turn it over to Missileman? I wanted to bring this discussion over. We've talked about Immaculate constellation. We can probably come back to that. But given your research over the years, and you've worked in many different sort of I guess scientific fields, you're saying, based on your bio here, what has you convinced that we've cracked the gravity barrier, that we've actually figured out anti-gravity?
Well, let's start with something I really liked Pastor Dave said, that it's unknown, it's not unknowable. And I come back to this a lot when we have technical debates about what are the odds that we can reverse engineer this. The analogies of in fact, I just had a really interesting exchange with Nick Gold where we were talking about this and how the three possible buckets of technological superiority that we could be dealing with are sort of like analogous to sort of the Kardashev scale almost. You could have a bucket of technologies that are fairly accessible, fairly comprehensible, and recognizable to your eyes, to your sciences. Things like really advanced quantum computing, really effective fusion propulsion or antimatter power generation. Different technologies that are exquisite engineering solutions to well understood physical phenomena. That's bucket one. Bucket two is new types of physics that we maybe have some sense might be around, that might be the explanation for the gap between quantum mechanics and general relativity, that might explain concepts like the quantum vacuum, or that solve the dark energy and dark matter problems, or the hierarchy problem. So basically fringe problems that, well, I should say, systems that operate with the assistance of solutions to our hardest physical problems. That's bucket two. Those are the kinds of things that we could probably figure out with a lot of time, but we would be forced to reinvent our engineering methodologies to come up with new tools. These are things that if they fell into our hands in the 1940s, we would look at them and we would have no idea what's going on. They would be like semiconductors on steroids. They would be like nuclear reactors on steroids. There would be materials there that are barely recognizable, but recognizable in their most elemental form. So everything probably on the periodic table, basically, to our modern eyes, not to the 1940s, of course. There would be heavy elements. Bucket three is where things get really weird. You can imagine this to be like your high.
Oh, we lost Twitter Spaces. Whoa, that was weird. Give me a second here, folks. I don't know what's going on. Oh, no. Okay, we're going to start another one real quick. Right quick. We're coming back. We're coming back. Okay. Okay. Well, we have totally lost Twitter Spaces. I don't know what's going on here, folks, but I do apologize for that. Let me try and see if I can salvage it. I don't know why. Weird. Weird. Maybe it was the riffraff we were talking about took us down. I don't know. Oh. I got it. 34 minutes. So it changes.